Okay, hey, so today we will be going through how to build React apps and Vue apps and compare how the two compare, or check how the two compare. I'll take you through some very, very basic stuff using Rust and using React and just give you a bit of an idea on how you build Rust apps, web apps, front ends, and how hard or easy it is compared to doing JavaScript. And it might well be that I'll be challenged a bit with the JavaScript because I actually don't use that all that often. Okay, so if we start out by creating our React app, we'll just do npx create React app. Let's see. Okay, npx create React app basic. Yes. Cool. In the meantime, we can just do cargo new basic u. This will create a new Rust application, which we have here. And the first thing we'll do to the Rust application is add u. Let's just see. Yeah, that looks okay. And we're also ready to run our React app. So let's see here, basic cd. Okay, npm start. Okay, so our React app is up running. Let's just copy the URL and take it to the browser. Okay, so that's our React app. Let's go back to our Vue app and I need to start a code editor. Let me just do that real quick. Where did I put this? Documents. Okay, so here we have our application. So this is the Vue application. And we're just going to remove this. Could you make a boilerplate Vue app? Cool. Okay, so unlike the React app, we are not using any boilerplate here. We're just writing everything from scratch. And let's just see, wasn't trunk serve. See if this compiles. So what does it complain about? Oh, we need to do a index file. And we also need to add a bit of stuff to it. So let me just... So you can download a boilerplate for doing all of this. In my case, I'm just copying this over from another project. Let's see. Do we have everything we want to have here? I think so. Oh, new file. Let's go back to the terminal and see how it performs. Whether oh wait, yeah. If we are actually ready to build now. Okay, so it's still feature hydration. None of these features were selected. Right. Let's just check this out. Okay, so I wonder why would it. Bin that path. Okay, we clearly have a bit of starting problems here. Right. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm just adding the client-side renderer version of, right, and it's not bin, we need to change that. Why would it think that it's bin? Right, that's from the index file, bin/main. We're just going to remove that. Right, so part of the problems we're having here is that I just copied some things across that has some settings that we will not use in this video. And that should be corrected now. We've created the assets directory. Let's just see. We have Tailwind CSS. We have, okay, so we should have configured everything the way that it should be. Okay, let's see. It still complains about that's a bit weird. Okay, let's see. Okay, please specify. I guess I'm a bit confused about this. let's just try to remove this bit again. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Okay, so we have a bunch of missing dependencies here. It cannot find the target. It cannot find a bunch of other things. But all in all, we are getting somewhere here. So, right. So one of the slight issues here is we need to configure things in such a way that we're using the right target. And so let's just check Rust up. Show. And okay, so that was the right one. Let's just do wasm trunk serve again. Check what tool chain it was complaining. Oh, it was complaining about this one. Let's just install that one. Oh wait, let's just target. Add. There we go. I'm actually super surprised that we don't have this installed. But maybe that's because I normally am doing all of this on my laptop and not on my stationary machine, which is the one I'm using for streaming right now. Okay, while it does this, so the whole purpose of this stream is I'll walk you through what will be the first chapter of the book on Rust development or front-end development in Rust that I'm writing. It's actually a full stack development. So the first chapter is just comparing the front ends. How do you do you compare to React? And so we have these examples here with a React component and what the corresponding U component will look like. And so we're going to go through these ones in this video. So you basically get all of the content of this chapter for free in this live stream. And the live stream will be available for a bit of time. Then I will take it down again and I'll cut things into a course. But in the meantime, you have full access to it, and all of this is being developed in public. Okay, so we're up running here. We now have an IP, an endpoint we can access on localhost, and you see this is our boilerplate U application. So we have our React application, we have our U application, and let's just go ahead and oh, bloody hell, I see this one. Right, there's something about that you need to choose a specific. We forgot to choose the TypeScript template. Okay, let's just do this one more time. That's template TypeScript. Yes, okay, so it does it with TypeScript now. In the meantime, let's try to have a look at the first thing here. So this is the application we'll be doing. Let's copy it. Okay, and we need to remember to. Or was it start? I think it was start, wasn't it? Okay, now we got it up running with TypeScript. That one is here, it's TSX. Okay, so let's jump into the TypeScript application. So we're just going to replace this with this very, very simple hello world application. And so what we want to do is just make a very, very simple Lambda-based component that we can render, and then we can see how the corresponding thing is done in U. Right. So this is about as simple as it gets, right? We have a Lambda function, we have a div that just has a heading and a paragraph. And the net result looks like this, hello world. This is a simple JSX example. Right. If we go back here, we look at the corresponding Lambda function for our Rust code. That's just a Lambda function with the typical double pipe for the Lambda notation. And then everything is pretty much the same. So if we go back to our code here, and let's try to see. Okay. Let's see if this compiles. And yes, it does. And so the only thing is we might want to have a bit of styling here and then do text XL. Right. And so it takes a little bit of time for it to rebuild, but it does. Let's just do 3XL just to make it proper big. Okay, so this was a very, very simple example on how to make a Lambda component. So it's slightly different to how you do it in React. The main reason being that we cannot define Lambda functions in the global scope. At least I don't think so. Let's just see what happens if we do that. I don't think Rust would be very happy with that. No, it wouldn't. Right, so we're not allowed to define these Lambda functions in the global scope, so we need to define it inside a function, and then we need to call it as a function here when we're doing Lambdas. But other than that, it's pretty much similar. Right, next example. So if we just roll up the two versions here, right? So here you have what one Lambda function looks like, and here what the other one looks like. Okay. Next, let's try to roll up the next example from the book. And so we roll back here and see what do we have. Right, so this was the lambdas. Okay, so here we have a very basic React example with a button that's clicked a certain number of times. Let's update the code here just to show what it looks like. All right, we need to do something like that. And maybe format this a bit. Okay, wait, let me redo this. Yeah, okay. So we add the counter here. Don't need the logo. But we do need use effect. And we do need use state. Okay, so we have a counter component here, and we're just adding that one in. Okay, so this is a very simple counter component. Whenever you click the component or click the button, the counter goes up by 1. Let's go back and see. Okay, so we are on 0 clicks, and we're we're basically just increasing the state. The corresponding code in Rust would look like this. So if we pull up the Rust code here, and we now do counter, then we do. So unlike React, we always need to specify the name through a macro here to say, okay, our counter is actually called counter. This will define the component counter and make it available inside the HTML for us. And then afterwards, we will define the actual counter. And so let's see, that one had div/div. And then we had a paragraph section. You've clicked. In order to add things into the thing itself, we need to do a formatting where we just do count. Okay, and we add a state here, count, which is very similar to how we do it in React. So we do use state, and we just add a 0. We get a state handler, add a button on click. And here we define a lambda function for updating the state. And so we simply does, right, we need to remember here it's important. So unlike JavaScript, one of the things that differs here is we need to indicate when we want to move variables out of the scope that they came from and into a new scope. And so we're moving the counter, we're moving that out of its original function into this new lambda function. And the way we do this to tell it that we want to move it instead of having it by reference is by adding this little keyword move in front of it. And we do it like this, +1. And hopefully that should do the trick. It's having some complaints up here. Unexpected. Okay, so what do we do wrong here? Let's have a look. Right, so the first thing is we should be using a lambda function for initializing this. Second thing, div, that ought to be okay, but we probably need an ampersand there. What else? Right, so in this one we have a bunch of different things. So we're doing that bit correctly. We actually don't do that. Did we misspell something there? I'm slightly puzzled here. Unexpected end of input. Oh, I see. Right. Yeah, okay. That makes a lot of sense. We have forgotten to close the button. Let's just check. And then it complains about this. Right, we forgot that this function take one argument. We're not going to use the argument, so we're just going to put an underscore there. Okay, cool. So it's compiling. Let's see how it compares. Our button is gone. Right. Yeah, okay. Obviously it's gone because we need to do click me / button. Okay, there you go. And right now this looks a bit flat because we are using Tailwind CSS. So we can again add class. Unlike React, when you're adding classes, you actually use the class keyword from normal HTML rather than class names, I believe it is in React. So we just put here P2 BG blue gray 500, and that should update our button. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Text wide rounded. Okay, so there you go. You see, the way you make stateful components are actually really similar to how you do it in React. So you have a state or state variable. So we are doing this with the functions, with function components, just like we would do in React. You have a state component, or you have a state variable. You have a state variable. You update that state variable on click, and then you render what comes out of it. And so I think the only really tricky bit here is that in React you don't need something like this move keyword, because in React everything is reference counted, whereas in Rust count can only live one place, so it cannot be living in the counter and in this one simultaneously. So you could reference it in there, but then the problem is that it will not live long enough, because once you get to the end of the function, it would get out of scope. So you need to move the count into the function, and you do that by this move keyword. It's a little thing that you'll need to get used to if you start picking up Rust. But yeah, that's pretty much the bigger hurdle in getting started with doing Rust development for front ends. So yeah. Okay, cool. I think we have time for one more example. Let's try to scroll down, see what the next example is. Okay, so a to-do interface. Let's see. So we have a to-do interface. And then a to-do list. And this one takes so this is a to-do component that takes a to-do list as input. And right, we're just going to do following. Cool. And in the meantime, let's try to write this out in and see, what do we have here? We actually only have a state variable. We have an unordered list. Okay, and then we need some properties. And each of these ones, so that would be to do, and that would be a vec, and then we just do another struct to do id string text string pub. Okay, let's see. And what is it complaining about here? Right, we need to derive the partial EQ. So this is one of the other smaller differences that you will need to get used to if you want to migrate from TypeScript to Rust. Rust wants you to define everything. So by default, you can't compare two structs of to-do. You need to implement the partial EQ or partial equal, which will allow you to compare two structs. Two struct instances, to be specific. Right, okay. And then all we need to do, oh yeah, we're finished over here. Then we need to add the props here. And that would be to do list props, right? And these would be referenced. This is another small thing that you need to get used to. In Rust, you have different versions of the same type, you could say. So this would be a copy type, or a move type. It basically means that you move whatever you're passing into this function is moved into the scope of this function. If I put an ampersand in front of it, it's referenced, which means that it will still be owned by the previous scope or whoever owns it. It's just borrowed into the scope for the duration of the scope, right? And so let's do props.todos. Right, wait. Oh, bloody hell, I'm mixing up a few things here. Right. So we would do props. Okay. Let's see. So we would do props.todos.iter.map, and then we make a lambda function with a to-do. So what this does is it creates an iterator for the to-dos, and then we're mapping the to-dos one by one. And we will simply just want to return a HTML where we do li key, just like in React, we add keys. So we do to do that ID, and then we just clone it to make sure we don't move it out. And then we do the same for the text to do that text.clone and li. And then finally, once we have done the mapping, we do collect HTML. And that should be it. Let's see, okay, so we add our to-dos, and let's see, did it do that right? It did. Let's go back and see. Oh, it is complaining here. Right, we need a double colon. Sometimes it's hard to have a C++ background. You end up doing things the wrong way. Okay, so let's start out. Here's our to-do list, and here's our to-do list. And I think the only difference is styling at this point, right? But you see the big picture here, right? We have the same kind of interface. The difference is we need to add a little bit extra here to tell it that we should be able to compare it. Then we define the properties. Unlike TypeScript, where you can do this inline, we have to do this in a struct. Other than that, it's pretty much the same thing. We do a UL, and we do a loop over the components we have, and then basically just map them into a line. We need a little bit more annotation to tell this is a HTML object, and we're going to collect them into a vector or into a HTML component. So we're collecting all of these HTML components into another HTML component that then goes into our original code. But other than that, it is very, very similar in how it's built up. And I think that is pretty much it for this example. Okay. Cool. Let's see what we have next. Right. Breaking down our components into reusable components. We'll keep this for the next video. I hope you've enjoyed this small introduction to how you do and I hope you found it useful. If you did, please like the channel and please subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video where we'll go through more of these small examples. And then once we're through those ones and we understand how to do basic components in U, we're going to go all in and build a full Ethereum compatible wallet. And yeah.